What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Sports Live. If you're on Twitch, you got a little bit of a treat, because it was a little bit of a shit show, and I was not starting the show off that way. We are doing it right, so I went back to the wait screen. I almost said, fuck it, let's do the whole 3 minutes over again. Let's just restart the whole thing, Soapy. But I am not. I am a gracious man, not a stupid man. But welcome into MVP Sports Live, where we are talking sports each and every day. How we do it is we pick a day. We have a schedule. Hey, this sport this day, this sport that day. This is NBA week, except for one day. And that will be Thursday. We will talk the NFL, maybe baseball on Friday, but it'll probably be NBA as well on Friday. So a full NBA slate with one NFL day as the schedule comes out on Friday. Today, you get the tag team, the ragtag duo of myself with the man, the myth, the legend. I don't even know why I said that for you. That's usually Dave and Wet Boys. But Soapy, how you doing today? You know what? It's kind of like I haven't seen you in forever, Soapy. It's not it's not like I just talked to you for about 40 to 50 minutes on Games Live about Resident Evil or anything. This is the first time that we have seen each other today. Dude, like, we never do shows together. People on the sports side are like, are Ricky and Soapy even real people? Because they're never on the show at the same time. They are rarely on the show at the same time. We have been on the Sports Live at the same time. Also, what up, Eric, in chat. Today we are talking one thing and one thing only, though, Soapy. Not just the NBA, but we're talking contenders and pretenders getting ready for the playoffs. The season starts, or the season ends, I should say, on Sunday. Play-in tournament next week. Play-in tournament ends on Friday. Next Saturday, boom, we get the playoffs. So Soapy and I will be running through all the playoff teams, and we're going to talk who do we think are contenders, who do we think are pretenders, and pretty much self-explanatory from there. Before we get into it, the housekeeping, the first major announcement, we are giving you our 2 weeks notice on Twitch. We will, after May 24th and beyond, no longer be streaming live on Twitch. We'll be exclusively on our YouTube page, MVP Sports. Go ahead and sub there if you are not subbed there already. Those are where the live shows will be taking place from the May 24th and into the future. If you want to join the Discord link down below in the description. You can also go !Discord into Twitch chat to get that link. It is the greatest community in the universe. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you can go ahead and do that. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. And really, go ahead and sub to MVP Sports if you have not already, so you keep catching the live shows each and every weekday. Because, like I said, Twitch, we're not going to be here after the 24th and beyond. But Soapy, let's get into it. We got a jam-packed show talking about a lot of contenders and a lot of pretenders. And how we're going to do this is me and you kind of worked out in the intermission between shows, is that we're going to talk about the bottom, and then we're going to work our way towards the top. However, there is a big question we need to answer. Do we start in the West, or do we start in the East? And there's only one way I can think about to settle this decision, Soapy. Do you know what that is? I know you know what that is. I told you what it is. Pulling sticks is one. Like, you have East and West. All right, Soapy, pull one, and you take it. But no, we're going to flip a coin. We're going to flip a virtual coin on my little tablet here. Heads is the East. I gotta turn it like this so everyone can see it. Heads is the East. Tails is the West. We're just going to flip and see what we're talking about. And it is tails. Everyone sees it. It's tails. So we're talking about the West to start. And that was actually, I think, the one you wanted to start with, Soapy. Oh, Soapy's muted. No, Soapy's unmuted now. Great. You were muted to start the show. That was my mistake. Thank you, Eric, for catching on, because usually that happens with me. But Soapy, and I will reintroduce you. How you doing so people can hear your voice?
I'm doing good.
So
this totally This totally is not the 500th time this has happened.
Dave even yesterday was like, haha, I leave the stream on so I can see if I am muted. But thank you to our great Twitch chat for helping expose how stupid I am on a daily basis. But Soapy, we are starting in the West. This is the conference you wanted to start in. Am I wrong?
I mean, it was kind of one that has an interesting little bit at the bottom there.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the little bit at the bottom, and I will ask you this. Last night, because of the Pelicans' loss, and because of where the Kings are, Kings play tonight, the magic number for the Spurs at 10 is one game. They have to only win a single game. Their final opponents, let me pull up their schedule. Spurs obviously beat the Milwaukee Bucks last night in a game that shocked me. They play the Nets on Wednesday, I believe, after the Nets are done playing the Bulls. They have the Nets on Wednesday, the Knicks on Thursday, and then 2 games against the Suns on Saturday and Sunday. What is the possibility in your mind that the Spurs go 0-4 in those final 4 games?
It's a good chance. It's because they have a really tough schedule ahead of them.
But
obviously
they just beat the Bucks, my guy.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of teams have beaten the Bucks.
Good point. There are. Let's see. Before my my screen went away, how many teams have beaten the Bucks?
I'm just gonna point out
there's a lot of teams. Go ahead.
They beat the Bucks yesterday, so I mean. Who knows, dude? The Spurs could just come out and just be an absolute flamethrower.
There have been 25 games where the Bucks have lost. That's what I was looking for. The other 2 opponents, though, that could possibly get into the playoffs are the Pelicans and the Kings. Pelicans have Dallas, Golden State, and the Lakers in their final 3. They would have to win all 3 in order to get in. And same thing with the Kings. Kings are a half game back of the Pelicans. They would have to win tonight against Oklahoma City. That's a shocker. That's a big game. Then they get 2 against Memphis, 1 against Utah. They would also have to win out. The odds are in the Spurs' favor. Am I wrong? Let's just say, I will ask you this. What is your percentage chance, Soapy, that the Pelicans or the Kings actually get into the playoffs? Because the Kings are without Hallie, they're without Fox, and Barnes hasn't been playing games down the stretch. And the Pelicans have completely said Zion and B.I. are no longer playing.
Yeah, I think this is essentially, I don't want to say a 99%. It's basically a 99. It's 95 to 100%.
Yeah.
And I think as well, who knows? They could catch the Suns in an off night.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, we saw, I think it was against the Lakers. The Lakers caught the Suns in an off night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a chance that can happen, especially, since the Suns, I don't know if they clinched a number 1 spot, or if they're or if it's statistically possible for them anymore.
They have not. They are so because of the loss yesterday to that the Jazz faced to Golden State yesterday, the Suns are a game and a half behind the Jazz. So the Jazz are currently the number 1 team in the West, 50 wins. And their remaining schedule, I'm pulling up both the Suns and Jazz schedules right now. The Jazz have 3 games left. They play Portland and then the tanking Thunder and the tanking Kings. Whereas the Suns, they play Golden State tonight. They play Portland on Thursday, and then 2 games against San Antonio. So, really, the Jazz would have to lose 2, and the Suns would have to basically win at least maybe 3 or 2 of theirs as well.
Yeah, so, obviously, I think if the Suns decide to, let's say the Suns don't even care about the number 1 seed, they're just all right, whatever. We're at the point of we can coast along.
Yeah.
They may see a chance they rush Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because, we know Chris Paul does tend to have an injury history, especially when it comes to playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
So they may decide, let's rush Chris Paul, let's rest some of our older guys. and obviously like probably have Booker still get reps in because Booker's still young enough that like they may not play him like a game or two.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, he's still young enough of like, oh, here you go, Booker. You can play like, we may not play you like 35 minutes like we want to, but like we'll pay you like 28.
Yeah, and I mean the Suns too. Madroke says so. The Suns are going to try and posture for the number 1 spot. I think it's interesting. They have a chance to get it, but the play-in tournament to me goes into do the Suns want the 2 seed or the 1 seed? And the reason why how we're going to do the play-in tournament because of the nature of it is if you're new and you're like, Ricky, how does the play-in tournament work? It will be 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10. The winner of 7-8 gets the 7th seed. The loser of 7-8 plays the winner of 9-10, and the winner of then that game will get the 8th overall seed. So instead of going one team for these, we're just going to go in groups of 2. The first game would be 9-10 Soapy. The 2 teams right now are the Grizzlies and the Spurs. Spurs are probably going to be the 10th seed. Memphis is a half a game behind the Warriors. There's a chance that even moves depending on how the Warriors go, but I think the Warriors will finish up at the 8th seed. Grizzlies will be the 9. Do you see either the Grizzlies or the Spurs being a contender in the play-in tournament to win 2 games to make the playoffs?
I think they could. It's just because the Spurs are one of those teams of, you know, on paper, or like just watching this team, obviously, you know, like we kind of know like this team has a lot of talent, and this team's not bad.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly just that like right now they don't have like that definitive like this guy's hop on this man's back, we're going. Like, you know, the Spurs have had through most of their franchise history. You know, they started out with George Gervin, then they got David Robinson, then Tim Duncan. They had Kawhi Leonard for a little bit. They don't really have that type of guy right now. And it's very obvious they're lacking that type of player. This is still a really good team. Like, the fact that they can roll out a lineup with DeJounte Murray, who I think is statistically, like, a top 10 defender in the NBA. And, like, Keldon's really come out this year. Lonnie Walker's been having a good stretch of games. Jakob Poeltl's like a very surprising, like, he doesn't stand out in the stat sheet. Watching the games, he's a very impactful player. DeMar DeRozan's been really good this year. It's just no one talks about him because he's on the Spurs.
Yeah, because he's on the Spurs.
Like, let's be real here. Like, I'm basically, I don't even want to say a closeted person. Like, I've talked about I watch the Spurs a lot.
You give DeMar DeRozan his most wet boys of the year.
Hey, I'm just saying, I gave him the first. I may as well give him all like 400. I'm going to give him.
Yeah.
But I think that team is a team you do not want to run into.
Okay.
It's simply because, you know, obviously DeMar does have a history of choking in the playoffs. But it's also at the same time, you know, you have, depending on who they match up with, it's a scary matchup because if it's Curry has to try to score up DeJounte, which, don't get me wrong, I think he can. I'm not going to act like DeJounte's going to shut him down because I don't think there's a single player in the NBA who could shut down Curry. Like, it's mostly just that I think DeJounte is going to be one of the players who can at least attempt to do it. And as well, you know, you have other solid defenders on the team. Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker. Obviously, like I mentioned, Poeltl, you know, they've been playing, I don't remember what everyone on the Spurs is. Essentially, it's like this team is just a really solid team. And I think they're one of those teams of, I don't want to say they're like what the Heat were a couple of years ago, where like the Heat were barely a playoff team, but it's like I don't want to match up against that team.
And the thing I will say is with both, like, here's the thing. When it comes to Memphis and the Spurs, I'm not on the side of saying that they're pretenders. I just don't think, like, I think that the game that they play against each other will be a great game. It'll be great basketball to watch. However, I don't like either of them. Like, depending on who wins, like, you could say, like, oh, depending on if the Lakers win and if the Warriors win. I don't like either of them to beat the Lakers or the Warriors because although there is a part of me that would love, and I'm sorry, Eric, I know Eric's a Laker fan, I would love the Lakers to get bounced out of the play-in tournament. Just because. There's a part of me that would love that. I don't think the Lakers or the Warriors get bounced out. It's basically whoever wins that 7-8 game, and yet again, the Warriors could screw everything up, where Memphis could win a couple. The Warriors could lose a couple. Boom. They flip. Oh, guess what? Now the Spurs have to play the Warriors in the first game. Lakers have to play the Grizzlies. And that messes all of this up. But, like, for me, if it ends up like it is right now, like, I think that the Grizzlies and the Spurs are hard-fought teams. I just don't know if either of them have enough to beat the Lakers or the Warriors after playing a game between themselves in order to get to that next game.
See, and I think that's where we vary on this. I don't look at this Warriors team that highly.
No, it's Steph Curry. It's how far... I think Steph Curry can lead this team to one win in the play-in tournament.
See, and honestly, and obviously, I do love Steph Curry. I'm prefacing this with this now. I don't think Steph Curry is going to be able to do that in this series, and it's just because the fact of...
Well, it's not even a series. It's a one game.
Yeah, but like in this game, it's the fact of you're going to have DeJounte Murray playing his heart out. You're going to have a defensive-minded coach, one of the arguably the best coach of all time, probably. Yeah. You know, some people he is, some people he isn't. Like a super defensive-minded coach in Greg Popovich on the other side of that court. And obviously Steve Kerr is also a pretty solid coach too.
Yeah.
But
also, just throwing this out here for this season, the Spurs against Golden State this year, the Spurs are 1-2 in 3 games against the Warriors. Against the Lakers, they are also 1-2. Against Memphis, they are 1-2. Memphis against San Antonio are obviously 2-1. Against Golden State, they are 1-1. And against the Lakers, they are 0-3.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, looking at how they match up in the regular season helps. I think it's just Pop will be able to flip a switch in this team when it comes to that moment of, like, we are getting into this damn tournament.
Yeah.
And especially because they have a lot of veteran talent on this team as well. You know, they have people who have been to the finals on this team. And obviously, I know, you know, the finals experience isn't, like, the only thing, but, like, Patty Mills has always been consistent in the playoffs for them.
Fucking like, Rudy Gay, man.
Yeah, they got Patty Mills, fucking Rudy Gay, man. You know, and as well, they've had a lot of solid standouts from people. I just think I have too many questions about this Warriors team because Oubre's been really, like, up and down throughout the season. Like, obviously, he kind of hit, like, a groove for a little bit. Obviously, Wiggins has been a lot better than what he was.
Yeah.
I just don't think those two are going to be enough to be able to put them over a team that has such good coaching, that has such good defense around them. Like, obviously, yes, they've beat the Warriors. Like, of course, the Warriors have beat them this year, but once again, that's also off of Steph Curry 40-pointers, essentially. And, like, a random, like, 25-point game from someone that, like, you're not going to get 25 from every game.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing, too, that I want to lead into is, so, when it comes to the Warriors and the Lakers are an easy one to where if LeBron is back healthy, yet again, LeBron is dealing with something that we have not seen ever, is an actual injury, an injury that is probably going to hamper him for the rest of his career and be lingering to some degree. If he is back healthy, if AD is back healthy, there's no argument, Soapy. The Lakers are a contender.
Yeah.
The Warriors are... Go ahead. I didn't know you were going to say anything about the Lakers.
Oh, yeah, no. It's mostly just and obviously, you know, them missing Dennis Schroeder is going to really hurt, but as well, if what we saw in that Suns game from AD is anything, AD's back.
Yeah.
Like, there's no more of, like, this, oh, you know, is AD even good anymore? You know, is he falling off? No, that's gone. Like, if AD is anything like he was in that Suns game... good luck, Draymond.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I will say, and maybe this kind of jumps the line a little bit, and we mentioned just the Suns and the Jazz because of who they would have to play. The West is unique compared to the East, because like we mentioned the Suns, like, oh, will they even want to go for the 1 seed? I think they would, because I feel like the one team the one team you don't want to play if you're the Suns or the Lakers. And B, we could be in an interesting situation where the Warriors, they're not contenders to me, but the thing is, if they get matched up, let's say the Lakers beat the Warriors in game 1, Warriors then beat either the Grizzlies or the Spurs in game 2, and it's basically the top 8 is what the top 8 usually is. Unless the Jazz, hell, even if the Jazz get Conley and Mitchell back, let's say they don't get them back for that first round, I could see if the Jazz don't have Conley and or Mitchell, Steph Curry might have enough in the tank to get past the Jazz to where if I'm the Suns, the one team I don't want to see are the Lakers, and maybe if I'm the Jazz, the one team you might not want to see right now are the Golden State Warriors. Well, I'm sorry, the Steph Curry Warriors.
Yeah. Right now, like, it feels like a really bad thing to be a number 1 and number 2 seed. Like, obviously, most people are like, oh, just shoot for the number 1 seed. You're going to play easy teams.
Yeah.
Any team that makes it in is not going to be a fun team to go against. Obviously, it's mostly because it's the West, and the West is deep as shit.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact of the Jazz as a team may be running into the possibility of a Steph Curry who has been on fire. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh, hey, your defensive-minded backcourt's gone? Huh, I may drop fucking 60. Mm-hmm. Because, we saw what he does to Rudy Gobert. I don't think Rudy Gobert wants that.
Look at last night's game. Jordan Clarkson dropped 41, and Steph's like, still going to beat you.
Yep. And obviously, you're not going to get a 41 point from Clarkson all the time.
Night. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He probably could if he shot enough times. Obviously, that's everyone in the NBA. Or most people in the NBA. But, I think the Jazz could hold out. And I think it's mostly because at this point, teams need to start adapting the same strategy that everyone took with LeBron.
Yeah.
Let Steph drop 50. Don't let anyone else in his team score. Mm-hmm. And, I think the Jazz are a team that can be built to do that. Of, Steph could drop 40, but as long as we keep everyone else below 15, we can win. Because they have one of the best benches in the league. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they have a potential Defensive Player of the Year center. They have really good starters. I think it was. Did we rank them as the best, the best players on? Their starters.
You're talking about the Jazz.
Yeah,
that was last year when the Fast Break used to do the positional rankings. The Jazz were the number 1 team based off of where the rankings fell, which was interesting.
Yeah, and as well. I think it's just that team hasn't really changed. I was mostly just not high on them because I don't like the Jazz.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, where I feel and I even look at the records, and even the records with teams, you can kind of throw these out because I feel for example, the Warriors and Jazz, Warriors are 2-1 against the Jazz this year. Lakers are 1-2 against the Jazz. However, I think both of those wins came when LeBron was out. And the Suns, too, same kind of a situation. They're 2-0 against Golden State. They play one more time before the season ends. Against the Lakers, the Suns are 2-1. But yet again, how many of those games were when LeBron James was out? That's the big thing with the Lakers, to where if LeBron James is injured for any significant amount of games, they're a pretender. AD is good, but I don't think AD can carry them to a finals or Western Conference Finals. If LeBron and AD are there, they're obviously finals contenders. But that's the big linchpin. Same thing with the Jazz. We'll get into. They have injuries. The Warriors, I think they're pretenders. But if they do play the Jazz, a little bit of a grain of salt that maybe Steph Curry can pull them through a series with the Jazz if they're injured. Is there anything else you think we need to mention about any 4 of the play-in teams?
I guess I would say probably the possibility if the Grizzlies sneak in.
Yeah.
And mostly just do you think they would stand a chance against a Jazz or a Suns team if they match up with them? Or is that just and that's a clean sweep?
Who? Which team again are you talking about?
The Grizzlies.
I don't think it's a sweep, but I think if the Grizzlies match up against the Suns or the Jazz, I would still favor the Suns and or Jazz. Well, yeah, depending on who gets the one or the two. Because the Grizzlies are a weird team to where they play up to better opponents. They play down to lesser opponents. They play up to better opponents. and they've done it all year.
Yeah, and the main reason I'm saying that is mostly because like they kind of danced around the Grizzlies, essentially. But it's more of a, I think the Grizzlies could be a really like scary team for someone, and it's mostly because like they're still young. Like these guys are still proving themselves, and like obviously that's why like I was saying like I think it could be a sweep.
Yeah,
because like very few players on this team have experienced playoffs before.
Good point.
Because I'm trying to remember who the oldest person on this roster is.
On the Grizzlies is? It's Jonas. Yeah. What, Jonas Valanciunas?
Yeah. So I think, two of the only players on this team with playoff experience is Slow-Mo and Valanciunas?
Yeah, probably. And what, Slow-Mo's experience came when he was with the Spurs, right?
Slow-Mo's came with the Spurs. Valanciunas came when he was with the Raptors.
Yep.
And obviously, I don't think the Spurs ever got super far with Slow-Mo. So, like, essentially, the farthest they've experienced the second round.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not trying to completely write off the Jazz for any Jazz, or not Jazz, Grizzlies fans. I don't know why I kept saying Jazz.
I mean, the Grizzlies, to me, could they be the 8th seed? Yeah, but I don't see them going past the first round. That's just me.
Yeah, like, I think the 5-game series, I think they sneak out one, but once they kind of realize, like, okay, this is how we stop this team, just like that. The Jazz, I think, are the team.
Yeah.
Of the two between the Suns and the Jazz, I would not want to run to the Jazz. Even with injuries, I think this Jazz team is terrifying.
Here's the thing. I think Donovan Mitchell's back for the playoffs, though. That's why I don't want to run into him.
Yeah, well, and also just even with that, you have Quinn Snyder as a coach, Rudy Gobert, and almost everyone on that team can play defense. Obviously, Jordan Clarkson's kind of the exception. That, when you can drop 20 a game, they'll let you get away with it.
So, we'll get into the Jazz. Let's go continue up from bottom to the top. Here's a team that I think we're going to agree on, but there's a possibility that we disagree. The Portland Trailblazers, contender or pretender, Soapy?
I think they're pretender.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. Like, I don't want to, but I feel like, because let's be honest, they're going to get matched up against the Clippers in the first round because of how the standings are. Yes, there's a potential. There's still a potential that either Dallas or Portland swap, that Denver and LA swap. I don't think that Denver and LA are swapping. There's a possibility, even if they go up against Denver or LA, I like the Nuggets and the Clippers in a best of 7 against the Trailblazers. And I feel like Trailblazers are going to lose their first round. Terry Stotts is going to get fired. Blazers will look to the post-Terry Stotts era.
Yeah, and as well, both of those matchups, I do not look favorably at all with who the Blazers would match up with.
Yeah.
If you match up with the Clippers, congratulations, have fucking fun. Because now, Lillard's going to be guarded by Kawhi and Paul George the whole game. Because they can basically just be like, oh, CJ McCollum, sure, whatever. Do what the hell you want to do. We don't care what you do. We're making sure Dame time's not happening. But obviously against the Nuggets, they don't really have someone who's like a super lockdown. But even at that, it's like
easier said than done sometimes with shutting down Dame time, though.
Yeah, but when you have two people who are that good of defense, especially for instance, a 2-time former defensive player of the year, should have been 3-time. Totally not biased about the fact he should have been the first non-center to win it 3 times in a row. But I mean, hey.
Mad Rogue throws out, and this goes into the Terry Stotts rumors that we do here. He says, "Do you think Portland blows it up after the season?" I don't know if they blow it up, like split up Dame time and CJ. I mean, there's a good possibility though. Like if they're gonna get rid of Terry Stotts, what makes it to where it's like, okay, keeping this core together works?
I mean, they're just going to milk this dry. Like, I think they will try to find every possibility to not have Dame leave town.
Yeah. Well,
obviously, because,
Dame is untouchable. It's if they break it up, CJ's getting traded somewhere.
Yeah, but I was mostly just meaning as like if they want to hit a complete reset, which I don't think they want to do. Obviously, Portland is one of those teams of they kind of thought they were hitting a complete reset, 4 or 5 years ago, and then Dame's like, actually, no, fuck you. This is my team. Who needs Aldridge anymore?
Yeah. So, I mean...
I think this team could be one that... I don't want to say they blow it up. I think they try to retool the roster. The only thing is, who on this roster do you move? Because I don't think they want to move Dame. I don't think they want to move CJ. I don't think they want to move Nurkic.
And here's the other thing. when you go to move players, you got to find teams that are willing to take on these players. It's easy to say, oh, well, we'll trade this guy. Okay, who wants them? What return are you going to get? Do you feel like you're getting enough of a return? Are you going to be a winner or a loser? Because contract-wise, Dame's locked down. CJ's locked down until 2024. Norm Powell has a player op that he's probably going to take. Anthony Simons, like the only people up at the end of the year for them are Hollis Jefferson, Carmelo, and then Zach Collins, Enes Kanter, and Harry Giles. Nurkic, technically they can move on from because he's got 12 mil of non-guaranteed cash next year. So, like, what do they cut Nurkic to try to get 12 million off the board and try to go after somebody to pair with Dame and CJ?
See, I don't think they would cut him. I think they would try to move him. The only thing is, like, what team needs a skill set right now? Because most of the teams that are, like, kind of solidified as, like, you know, oh, we're pushing for playoffs, they already kind of have a center.
Yeah.
Like, the only team I could really see if they wanted to try something like that is, like, the Warriors. But even at that, like, the Warriors may be trying to do something else sneaky.
I'm sorry, it's partially guaranteed. So, if they cut Nurkic at the end of if they cut Nurkic after this year, they would only have to pay him $4 million instead of his $12 million that he had. I mean, it's possible if they do it. Point is, though, they're a pretender. Because, like, I know the Nuggets don't have, interesting to say, will not have Jamal Murray for these playoffs. And that brings me into the next team to where the Dallas Mavericks have the potential. When I say contend, like, here's the thing. We should have probably put this up at the beginning, where when you say contender, are we saying for the title? Or are we just saying they can be a team that possibly makes some noise in the playoffs? How are you determining contender or pretender?
I view it as, like, a team that could make noise.
That's
and,
how
like,
I'm doing it too.
If they catch fire, I think they could push for the finals. Like, obviously, there are some teams that, like, we said, like, the Spurs, like, obviously, you know, the teams all the way at the bottom besides the Lakers are, like, contender.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength, because I want to say, if Kristaps Porzingis, if Tingus Pingus is healthy for this Mavs team, the Mavs could be a contender, because you looked at them last year. They gave some noise, although bubble situation, I think, played into it. They made some noise against the Clippers. I'm telling you, if they get paired up against the Nuggets, watch this. I'll say, like, oh, the Nuggets could be a contender. They can knock off the Nuggets in the first round. And then Jokic will have, like, 5 50-point games. And they'll win 4-1 against the Mavericks. But, like, that's a series. If it's Nuggets-Mavericks round 1, no Jamal Murray, this Nuggets team, MPJ, this is going to be his first playoff series playing significant minutes. Aaron Gordon, first playoffs in a long time, because in Orlando, it's like the Detroit Lions of the NBA. The playoffs are the Shadowlands, and the Magic just don't go there. To where it's like, I almost feel like this Nuggets team, how confident should you be in them? And if, yet again, the linchpin of, will Kristaps be healthy for the playoffs? If he is, I think Luka, Kristaps, and this Mavericks team could make some noise in the playoffs.
See, I fall on the opposite side with this team.
Okay.
I think they're pretenders. I think it's going to be, right now, they've really benefited from the fact that Tim Hardaway Jr. has hit a hot streak.
So you don't think he's going to keep it up? Yeah.
Oh, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is one of those people, he'll go on hot streaks. Like, he goes on heaters, and then he's ice cold.
Yeah.
Essentially, I view him in the same light as I kind of view Jamal Murray. And I don't mean, like, they're equal level player. I think they're the same type of player. Where they're either as hot as the Sahara Desert or they're as cold as the Arctic. Like, there is essentially no in between. Because think about it. Like, what, during, like, the bubble, like, before, like, the playoffs in the bubble, like, Murray was eh. It was like he'd get, like, 10 points, 11 points. And then playoffs come around, he's like, oh, hey, by the way, here's, like, 4 fucking 40-point games in a row. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Where the fuck was this the rest of the season? Like, I think I think Tim Hardaway Jr. at some point is going to come down from this heater. And obviously, I think Luka's good enough to win them a game or two. I just don't know if Porzingis is good enough to help them beyond that point. and I'm not trying to be like a super huge Porzingis hater because I don't hate him, but it's more or less of like a Porzingis is a player. I think he'll help, but like he's not going to be significant enough of like oh shit, they're going to beat them because of Porzingis. I think it's going to be oh hey, this is a Luka carry job through and through. And I think Luka's going to have the job easily over like 35 games.
I mean, let's be honest. Was last year not a Luka carry job in the bubble?
I mean, dude, honestly, every fucking season with Luka so far has been a Luka carry job.
Because like I even look at the Mavericks are 2-1 against the Nuggets this year, and in those games, let's see, one of those games was in January, where the Nuggets lost 124-127. Then you had, let's see, a little bit later on, March 13th, Dallas won 116-103. And then they played, where's the last one? They played one more time. I'll find it. That was the one that they won. Oh, there it is. So they played twice in January, once in March, where I believe Jamal Murray was healthy for all three of those. So one of them also went to overtime. The first one went to OT. So you had one of them had Luka, no Kristaps. Jamal Murray did play in that first one. Then you had in the second one, tablet being a little slow, you had Jamal Murray was still there. Kristaps did play, so you had one game with Kristaps. And then the last game, which was a Maverick win, you had Doncic and Kristaps out there and Jamal Murray. So these teams have not played with Jamal Murray not on the court. Only one game have they played with Kristaps not on the court, and it was a Maverick win.
Yeah, I just don't believe in this Mavericks team enough. I think they're still a few years out from contending, and I think they need to make some moves. I think just the Nuggets across the board are just a much better team. So, like the fact of it doesn't even have to just be like a Jokic dropping 50 points to win. It could literally just be you have the black hole of offense, Richardson on your team, and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
There's a chance neither of those guys drop above 15.
Well, that's the thing then. Let's go into the other side, which would be the 4 seed then, the Denver Nuggets. Are they a contender or are they a pretender?
I still have them as a contender. I think
I don't.
See, I'm confident in this team without Murray. And maybe that's I'm just a closet Nuggets fan, and I just haven't wanted to admit it because I'd sound like a bandwagon now.
Yeah.
But I love this roster. I think they have a lot of solid point guards on this team already. Like, they have Monte Morris. I think Campazzo, if I remember correctly, plays guard for them. Like, they have people that can fill in that position well enough. Like, obviously, they're not anywhere near the caliber of Murray.
Yeah.
But, they have people who are plug and plays. They can play in that position. They can hold their own. I'm mostly just worried for later down the line of if MPJ kind of freezes up in the playoffs. Kind of that playoff, like, almost like a playoff slump that, like, a lot of younger players almost tend to have a lot, where they're kind of like, they have that new level of expectation of, like, okay, we're playing this game physical, refs are letting people get away with more.
Yep. Shorter rotations because you're kind of going with the main playoff rotations. I think they're pretenders. Hardcore pretenders. And the reason why I say that is a couple of reasons, Soapy. One, no Jamal Murray. He was one of the firecrackers of last year's playoff run. Number two, there is no bubble this year, folks. The only reason the Nuggets were so good last year is because it was in a bubble. It was the Mickey Mouse Championship, to where there were no crowds out there. The lesser teams were at an advantage. I will fight by that point. To where the Nuggets are now going to have to go to opposing arenas. Yeah, some of these arenas might not have fans still, but you still have to travel. It's not waking up out of your hotel room, walking over to the arena, and not having to worry about travel or jet lag or anything. And it's like, I really don't call them a pretender because of their first round series. It's because of, with no Jamal Murray and how they've played against this team all year, all the Jazz have to do is get through that first round opponent. They basically have to get through the Warriors or If it's the Lakers, then okay, game over, because the Lakers will probably beat the Jazz, and then the Lakers would probably beat the Nuggets, so my point would stay true. I don't see the Nuggets getting to the Western Conference Finals. I see them losing in the second round to whoever they play, most likely will be the Utah Jazz, who will probably get Donovan Mitchell back and Mike Conley and be able to match up better against the Nuggets, who won't have Jamal Murray out there. And it'll all be put on like, okay, Jamal's not out there. MPJ, we need you to score. Can MPJ carry the load in his first playoffs with significant minutes?
Yeah, and I think there is a chance, and it's because he's taken such a significant jump this year. Obviously, he's been very hot and cold throughout the season, but once again, that kind of just happens when you get offense thrust onto you.
Yeah. And I mean,
also, when you start having responsibilities.
The thing I don't like between a Nuggets Jazz matchup without Jamal, okay, MPJ might be able to take over the points that you're losing with Jamal, but Donovan Mitchell, who's going to guard him and limit him? And on the other end, who do you think wins the matchup between Rudy Gobert's defense and Jokic's offense?
I think Jokic's offense. And I'm not even trying to be like a huge Gobert hater. Like, obviously, Gobert's gotten better on the perimeter this year. I think it's the fact of now, essentially, it's going to be MPJ almost has just a free lane to the rim.
Okay.
Like, obviously, don't get me wrong, the rest of the Jazz defenders are good defenders. I'm not going to act like the Jazz are a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Like, that starting five, when fully healthy, defensively is a fucking menace. Because all five of them are good defenders. It's just, I think it's once Gobert is pulled out of the paint and he's stuck in the perimeter, his main benefit of shot blocking and being a rim protector is taken away.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, okay, like obviously he's chasing the fat mobster around the rim or around the 3-point line. And at that point, I think it's Jokic is crafty enough that I think he could beat Gobert.
Okay.
I think.
See, I'm on the other side of like Jokic might have some good games, but I think he'll run into a little bit of a struggle bus against Gobert and this Jazz defense, because you mentioned it earlier. The Jazz aren't just one person good. It's their good team defense this year with Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, and that's just the main thing I'm worried about if they run into the Jazz. I think the only reason I'm saying contender is mostly just the fact I believe in this team enough.
Yeah.
Like, after seeing what they did last year, and obviously, Jamal Murray was a major part of it, but now we've kind of seen they've brought in more talent. This team's better than it was last year, obviously minus the fact Murray's hurt. Like, this team's just better overall. I think they can still somewhat replicate it. I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals. That Jazz matchup, though, if they do match up with them, I think is going to be possibly their hardest matchup they face.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, that Denver Jazz series will be a great series to watch. I just don't know if I don't know if I would put my money on Denver getting out of it.
Yeah, I personally will go with the Nuggets winning. Who knows? Maybe that's just the fact I'm biased against the Jazz.
Sophie's like, I just hate the Jazz. That's why. How about the team I can't get a gauge on? I want to say contender because of who they have on their team. I want to say contender because I feel like they should be a championship favorite. But I look at this team down the stretch, and they are losers of 4 of their last 6. Clippers, pretenders, contenders. What do you think?
I think they're a contender. I think it's with them. I think it's the regular season doesn't matter. I think it's essentially getting this team to the playoffs and then allowing, as much as I want to make the joke of Pandemic P, I really want to make that joke. I'm going to hold back on it. But, getting PG and Kawhi into the playoffs, I think, is just the main goal.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, the wheels are off now. Like, there's no more resting. There's no more them taking games off. Like, everyone's playing. Yeah. And I think this is a team that once they kind of get it clicking, which, I mean, they've had it clicking, and, like, I think it was at one point they were, like, the best offensive and best defensive team in the league. I think at some point this season, I remember Retro sharing something about it. And I just think this team, I don't want to say they're favorites, like they're like my favorite.
Yeah.
I think this is a team that a lot of people are going to look at that record and be like, oh, yeah, they've been losing games going into it. Their end goal is like we don't care where we place because we think we can beat every team in our path.
Yeah, and
I
I
think
mean, here's the thing I will say. I'm going to say contender like you. Obviously, they're not a pretender. But they're a team to where I will ask you this. If it's them and the Lakers second round, because if the Lakers win the first game and let's say win the first series against the Suns, who do you think comes out of that second round matchup, Clippers or Lakers?
and I will say that part massively depends on
the health of LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
Let's
I think AD
say
will
healthy
fine.
LeBron and AD who wins that series. If everyone's healthy, Kawhi, PG, LeBron, and AD.
I'm gonna go Clippers with that one. It pains me to vote against LeBron. You know, and obviously, like, it's always a bad choice to vote against LeBron.
Is it
a lot
because of the
time.
supporting cast? Is the
Yeah, I
supporting
think it's
cast
the
just
Clippers
better with the Clippers?
Yeah, and obviously, I may be completely wrong about this.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, you may know more about this. Is Schroeder going to be back by the time the second round starts?
Yeah, let's see.
Because I know he's in health and safety protocol right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if he's back for that, like, Schroeder is a key point to this team. Obviously, I may just be completely wrong and just don't even know that Schroeder's been back this whole time, and I'm just like a crack fiend who just hasn't paid attention to basketball.
Let's see. May 3rd. Extended. It is unknown if he received the vaccine. No, it doesn't say in this article, but this was from May 3rd, which was like obviously almost 10 days ago. At this point, Eric says it's all about which supporting cast can show up. Because like that's the thing with the Lakers, where I want to know, like, obviously coming back from an injury, you're kind of working on some things, but the one thing that did scare me about the Lakers is LeBron's and I know it was LeBron's first game back, but it was the game against the Kings that he came back from. And the Kings were missing De'Aaron Fox. They were missing Harrison Barnes. I think this was before Hallie had gotten injured, to where the Kings were hanging with it. And I think the Kings might have won that game. The Kings either won that game or the Lakers barely won that game. And I remember watching it going,
Kings won.
I remember watching it going, this should be a game the Lakers win. AD and LeBron are healthy. How are they losing to the Kings? And I know I'm not going to say like rag on LeBron or anything. Like, coming off an injury, there's a little bit of rust with normal people. We're just not used to seeing it. Yeah, the last game Schroeder played was that Kings game that they lost, where he only had 8 points in that game. And it's like, is that the Lakers we're looking to see? Like, should the Suns even be worried about the Lakers? Should the Clippers even be worried? Because with the Clippers, the reason why I bring up the Lakers is that's the one team that I feel like stands in their way of getting to the finals. I think that the Clippers win a 7-game series against the Suns. I feel like they win a 7-game series against the Jazz, to where like the Clippers' number one route in my mind is playing Portland in the first round, playing the Suns in the second, playing the Jazz in the third. And I know many people would say, but Ricky, that's playing the top seeds. Don't you want to play a lower? I think that the Clippers, talent-wise, are the top seed. They're just playing it like, it's like when LeBron was one of the years in Cleveland, he was the 7 or 8 seed, right?
Yeah, that was his last year.
Yeah, where it's like it's like when LeBron and the Cavs were a low seed. It was like, oh, they're still going to get to the finals. Like, that's the thing, where I feel like this Clipper team might have a great road to get to the finals. The only question is, will they play the Lakers, and what Lakers team shows up, and I'm putting a question on LeBron. Will LeBron be healthy enough to go through an entire playoffs? Because this could be the first year, Soapy, that LeBron looks human.
Yeah, and as well, I think this Clippers team is built to beat that Lakers team.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I know some people may
Plus,
disagree with
Ty
me.
Lue knows LeBron very well, so he knows all his weaknesses, right?
Yeah, the ultimate cheerleader. But yeah, I think it's just this team is built to beat that Lakers team.
Yeah.
You have Kawhi, who in the past has shown can guard LeBron pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if this is a LeBron that's not going to be at 100%,
Yeah.
why is it an easier time guarding him then?
Yeah.
Because then, obviously, I'm not saying LeBron's going to completely fall off a cliff. I still think playoff LeBron's still going to be a thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think we see like a LeBron 3 years ago, single-handedly willing an 8th seed to I think the finals or almost the finals.
I think they went to the finals that year.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I mean Cleveland and LeBron always went to the finals because he went to he has the record for straight finals appearances. Before that, first year with the Lakers, where it was oh man, we're not going to see LeBron in the finals because of his injury. Now he sat out the rest of that year. Mad Rogue even says to them Boogie and or PG on AD. I mean, fuck, I'd put Boogie on him if he can defend him.
I mean, to be fair though, I think it's also you can take the approach now of okay, let AD do. You can honestly then switch the whole game plan of let LeBron's teammates beat him. It could be this time fuck it, let AD's teammates beat us. Because if they're confident they can shut down LeBron, which obviously that's a monumental fucking task to do.
Yeah, but if he's the walking injured, it might not even be the same LeBron.
Yeah, this may be a LeBron that we kind of look at and we're just like you said, we could be wow, we're really seeing an end of LeBron being this unbeatable machine that just can't be slowed down. This could be the first time we kind of see the cracks in the armor.
I will ask you this: last two teams in the West before we do go to the East. We have an entire East to look at as well. I think that the East is a little bit though easier than the West. Suns and Jazz, contenders, pretenders. Are they both the same? Are they different? What are your thoughts?
I think they're both the same. I think they're both contenders. I think it's right now with the Suns, I would probably say they're more of the shakier contender, and it's just because if Chris Paul can stay healthy, I think they have a really good chance. If the same thing happens to Chris Paul that it always does every year, of when you need him most is when he gets hurt, if that happens again, obviously knock on wood, that doesn't happen. We don't want to see injuries to players. But if that happens again, I think this team falls apart. Because this is essentially the same team what it was last year, and last year's team without Chris Paul stunk.
Yeah.
Obviously, Booker's gotten better as a player, Aiden's gotten better as a player, the supporting cast around them has, developed much more. But it's having a presence like Chris Paul, I think, really helps. And I think if he goes down in a playoff series, at that point, if I'm the Suns, it's just be all right, fuck it, wrap it up. I'm
going to say the Suns, they're not a contender, but they're not a pretender. They're a weird middle ground to me where I feel like this is they're 1 year away from being a year away. And also some new people in chat just want to give Simply Corny. We will be talking about the 76ers in a little bit when we go to the East. Also, Zach, hello. For me, I look at it and I go, the Suns are a year away from being they are going to go ahead and they are going to be the team that runs through the playoffs. I like them better than I like it's weird. I want to say I like the Suns better than I like the Jazz, but the question that I face with the Jazz is A, is Donovan Mitchell going to be healthy? And B, is Mike Conley. If they have both of those guys back, I like the Jazz to be this year's Nuggets team from last year, where if Donovan Mitchell's back, if Conley's back, I have the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals. If Don Mitchell and Conley aren't back, or they are back, but they're not the same players, then I could see them getting bounced in the second round. I don't know how to gauge this Jazz team. Whereas the Suns, the big question to me is what I think is most likely going to happen. Can you beat LeBron James in the first round?
Yeah. And I think that's just where those two teams kind of fall. I think the Jazz are a team that's essentially just getting our best player back, making sure he's good and ready. Obviously, bringing in Conley, getting Conley back to maybe if it's not even 100%, at least getting him back to where he's playing so we can kind of slowly work himself back into what he needs to be.
Yeah.
And essentially, depending on who they match up with at the 8th seed, if they have the number one, I think this could be a team that, like, if they get the Warriors, they may honestly be like, fuck it, let them win 2 games.
Yeah, and I mean, even Zach in Twitch chat says that the Suns are overrated. They may be. Like, me...
He said underrated.
Oh,
the Suns are underrated.
Okay.
Yeah, and then simply said that the Jazz or the Hawks as the 1 seed.
The Jazz...
We love to see it.
I mean, it's not wrong.
We loved it.
The Jazz, I do not have the Jazz getting to the finals. If the furthest is maybe Western Conference Finals, and that's only because of who they might match up with. The Steph Currys. They might, if they match up against the Mavericks, hell, even if they match up against the Nuggets in the second round, I like the Jazz. But, like, that's the thing. I think that, to me, my favorite in the West is still the Clippers. And it's going to be them coming out. It's either them or the Lakers that come out of the West for me. It just, the big linchpin is what LeBron are we going to see in the playoffs?
Yeah, my favorites in the West are the Clippers and Suns.
Okay.
And I think it's honestly, like I said, I think the Suns team goes as far as Chris Paul's knees can handle it.
I would love if the Suns were in the finals. I would absolutely love it. Let's move over to the East. This one I think is a lot easier. Number 1, Soapy, I am going to let you answer this question because my homerism will speak out, although we're on a 3-game win streak. Do the Bulls have it in them to make the play-in tournament? They are 18 games back. They are 3.5 away from the Wizards. They play the Nets tonight. Are the Bulls making the play-in tournament, or can we look past them in this discussion?
I think you can look past them. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to have like
you're right. We're keeping our top 4 pick. Big brain move.
Okay, maybe not. But I think it's just this. They shouldn't be. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. I think the Bulls are just a team. They've hit a heater.
Yep.
And like they may make it, and if they do, congratulations, you get bounced.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and this will play us into our play-in tournament discussion. Of the 9 and 10 teams, one of them has to fall out. The Wizards, Dave and I looked at their schedule yesterday. They have the Hawks, who they just lost to by a point, in their next game. And then their last 2, I think they play pretty cupcake teams, whereas the Pacers, they may just be a little bit too far ahead of us. I will ask you, let's say the playoff teams are what they are right now. We'll look at 8-9 first. That'd be the first play-in tournament game. Do you like either the Pacers or the Wizards? Are any of these guys contenders to get into the 7 or the 8 seed?
Oh, see, I think these guys are pretenders. Like, and it's just because, like, if either of them would be considered a contender, I'd probably say Pacers. And I think it's just that team's better overall. Like, I don't think that the Wizards, like, obviously the Wizards hit a heater for a little bit, and they were the hottest team in the NBA.
Yeah.
But it's, right now, they're running without Beal, and I think that's going to kind of be a situation of, if Beal's back by the play-in tournament, yes, they could probably make it in, but I don't think they make it past, like, the first round. I literally think this team, in that matchup against the Pacers, like, yeah, they could win. Congratulations, you're going to lose the next part anyways.
Yeah, so with the Beal injury, this was from yesterday from CBSSports.com. He'll miss the next 2 games, so he's going to miss yesterday's game and then tomorrow's game against Atlanta, and he will be reevaluated on Friday. The last 2 games for the Wizards are Cleveland and Charlotte. So for me, I think he will be back for the play-in tournament. I like the Wizards. I don't like the Pacers. Because this entire play-in tournament, I feel like the Wizards can beat the Pacers. And then I feel like the Wizards can beat either Boston or Charlotte. Like, I love them to run a 2-game win streak, get in, and be the 8th seed. The question is, then they got to play Philly. They'll probably lose to Philly in the first round, but out of the play-in teams, they are the hottest. You put your money on them. I know they lost yesterday to Atlanta, but that's exactly what happens when it's Russ alone. The Wizards lose. When it's Russ and Beal out there, they're on a little bit of a heater. Indiana to me is a question mark team where They have problems in the locker room. Malcolm Brogdon's dealing with injuries. Sabonis is dealing with injuries. Turner is out. This team is kind of on shambles, just hanging on. I think the Wizards are contenders to make the actual playoffs. I will say that. The Pacers are pretenders. I will ask you this. In a 7-8 matchup, who gets that 7th seed? Boston without Jaylen Brown or the Hornets without Gordon Hayward?
I think Boston gets it.
Just barely?
Yeah, I think it's just barely. I think that's going to be a really close game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mostly just, it's going to be like a young player, like jitters sort of game of like, I don't think we see the best game out of LaMelo Ball. I think obviously like Rozier has experience. He's almost made the finals with this team before. So I mean, it's a Rozier revenge game.
Yeah.
But I think I have enough faith in the Celtics team that I think Tatum can get them over this. Especially because, I mean, before Tatum almost essentially brought them to the finals.
And I mean, yes, Simply Corny is right. Pacers are bigger. I think they're dealing with too many injuries. With the Hornets Celtics, I'll be honest, I don't want to watch that game. Because I would put my money on Boston to win it, mainly because the Hornets were the hottest team in basketball. Then LaMelo got injured, and it was like, oh my God, they're going to lose out on so much talent. Then they continued being the hottest team in basketball because Miles Bridges is like, yo, bro, I can play basketball really fucking good.
Miles Bridges essentially pulled the like, oh, hey, remember like a month ago when people said all I can do is dunk?
Yeah, well, I'm
going to fucking do that.
More. I could dunk and do more.
He essentially was like, all right, who's going to try to stop me at the rim? I'll wait. And everyone who tried.
Like,
the trail of bodies in every city you win in.
The way I see the play-in tournament working from the East is Boston beat Charlotte, Wizards beat Pacers, and then Wizards beat Hornets. Like, yet again, and it goes off to that last game of the season is going to be a barometer. Because, well, yet again, not even if Beal doesn't play that last one, but then plays the play-in tournament, it's completely different. I think the Hornets are on the downcline. Like, they are playing their worst basketball at the worst possible moment to where I think even though I don't like Boston, I feel like Boston can beat them in a game. The Wizards can beat them in a game. Boston and Washington would be my two to get out of the play-in tournament, and then that would mean Boston would play Brooklyn, Washington would play Philly. Let me ask you about the next one, because the next three teams are so close to where these seedings will probably change by the time we get to the actual playoffs. Soapy, Miami, contender, pretender.
I think they're contender.
Okay.
I think this is basically going to be like the Miami of old, of like you don't want to match up against Miami.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is going to basically be that type of team again.
Do you think they knock off the Bucks if they play 3-6 in the first round?
I think there is a chance.
Okay.
And it's mostly because we'll talk about it when we get to the top of the East.
Yeah.
I just think whoever this Heat team matches up with, that is going to be that team's hardest matchup.
Yeah.
It's simply because you have Jimmy Butler, who's going to play 110% every game he plays.
Because Jimmy Butler is your father.
Yeah, you got Jimmy Butler, who's going to go dad mode. You got, Bam, who's been really playing extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Not only knows what type of Tyler Hero we're going to get.
Yeah. And
essentially, it's just this team seems to play up in the playoffs. And it almost feels like they're kind of like, and I'm not saying the talent-wise they're the same, but like, they feel like they're the Clippers of the East. Of like that sort of like, the mission's not where we see it in the East. It's like just getting us to the playoffs.
The thing with me with Miami is they are a hard team for me to gauge right now, only because of they've had a unique season where they dealt with all the COVID stuff earlier. They took a hit in the record to where I almost feel like this Miami team record-wise should be better than what they are. Mad Rogue saying that they're pretenders. They're gambling their postseason on whether they get bubble Tyler Hero again. I'm going to put it this way. Tyler Hero ain't the one I'm looking at for this Miami Heat team. It's Victor Oladipo. Are we going to see Victor Oladipo play in the playoffs for the Miami Heat? Because I got to look it up. I got to look to see the last game he played, because I know he has been out for a hot second. since coming over to the Heat. Yeah, Victor Oladipo has not played since April 8th when they played the Lakers and won by 6. He has virtually missed, let's see, that was the 52nd game of the year. Let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, like 16 games. Like, are we expecting Victor Oladipo to be back by the playoffs, or is he just done for the rest of the year? That's the question. I know you don't have the exact answer, Soapy, but if you had to put your prediction on it, do you think we see Victor Oladipo come playoff time?
I think we do. I think we probably don't see him first game. I think we probably see him like second or third game into the playoffs. And I think they've just been playing it safe. Like, Oladipo did come off of a really nasty injury, and we saw in Houston, he was not the same Depot.
Yeah.
And I think it's right now, I honestly just think they're resting him. They're just being like, okay, we'll give you some more time to nurse that injury. Obviously, you didn't fully recover from it. Let's get you to this spot, and then, then kind of start bringing you back in. Obviously, that's a very bad time to bring a player back in, especially if they still are kind of affected by an injury due to the fact that playoffs, you play harder, you play tougher, you play more rough, essentially. I think it's as well with that. I think it's also a good time to bring him back, though, because in the playoffs, he's not going to be the number one focus on the team. It's going to be Jimmy Butler and Bam are the main focuses, and Oladipo is going to be able to just, integrate back into the offense without being like all right, Oladipo, we need you to drop 20 in this game. It could be like okay, we need you to get like maybe 10. Like we may rely more on Hero in this game to kind of, if Hero is anything like Bubble Hero, goddamn, who knows where this team's going to stop.
So like, I'm getting this from Clutch Points, where I usually don't like to get things from them, but they're curating it from the Miami Herald, so kind of makes sense to bring this up. Article says, however, head coach Eric Spoelstra gave a rather vague update on the health and status of Oladipo, according to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Here's the tweet from Jackson. Spoelstra again declines to say if Oladipo will play again this season. Only 4 regular season games left. Oladipo had hoped to return this season, but nothing has materialized to this point, and all parties are declining to discuss the matter. Take that at what you will, that they're not saying anything. I almost look at that and go, it's almost like are you just going to sit them for this year and roll with them next year? But hey, take that information that I just put out there that you would want. Miami, though, to me, I don't know. They're an in-between to me. I want to say contender because I don't think they're going to be a team that gets pushed over. I think that the bigger thing is if they play the Bucks, there's more questions about the Bucks than the Miami Heat. The question that I'll go into next, though, is same thing we did with Nuggets and Mavericks. The 5 seed would be the Hawks. Are the Atlanta Hawks pretenders or contenders, Soapy?
I think they're pretenders.
Yeah.
And obviously they were extremely hot to start the year off, and they've been a good team. I think it's just, if they do match up against the Knicks, oh boy, that is the opposite of what you want to match up with, because if I remember
the Knicks contenders to the fucking moon. Will they get to the finals? No, but contenders to the moon. I love this Knicks team.
Yeah, I think this Knicks team is going to, I think they go down the second round, especially if they match up against the Hawks. But I think this team is going to go down fighting. Ignore the train in the background. That's the Knicks hype train. Yeah. I said one good thing about the Knicks.
New York hype train, baby. Going from Detroit to New York.
Yeah. It had to swing by, apparently.
Yeah, but, I mean, the thing with the Hawks is they've had a lot of injuries this year. A, they've had a lot of injuries this year. B, they have had ever since, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate McMillan is their coach right now, right? The interim coach for them.
I honestly don't know.
I'm going to look it up really quick. I want to say that they were the ones that fired Lloyd Pierce, brought up Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan was assistant coach. Now he's the interim coach after they fired Lloyd Pierce. Ever since he became the head coach, the Hawks have looked a lot better than what they were earlier in the year. And this was a team that we had hyped to the moon in the offseason because of all the offseason moves that they made. I don't know if the Hawks get anywhere this year. Like Zach says, they ain't going anywhere in the playoffs. If they play the Knicks, I'm favoring with the Knicks in that playoff series. And this kind of brings me into the Knicks of being contenders. Pardon me. The Hawks are pretenders. The Knicks are contenders. Here's the only thing I don't want to see, Soapy. I brought this up on yesterday's show. I'm going to bring it up again. I really do not want to see the Knicks play the 76ers in the second round. I can't see it. The reason why, it will be in Philadelphia. It is a Tom Thibodeau coach team. Derrick Rose is playing some of his best basketball. I can't see that happen again to Derrick Rose, Soapy. I can't see it happen again. I will refuse to see it again. This man's career, that you've done enough. You've done enough to his career, Philly. Leave him alone. Leave him alone.
I mean, yeah, obviously
all the similarities are there. I can't see it happen again. Plus, yes, Simply Corny is right. Simmons has never lost to the Knicks.
Yeah, and obviously, we don't want to see Rose get hurt. Mm-hmm. I think it's mostly just I think it's this team, when they match up against the Sixers, I do think they're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And it's because I don't think this Knicks team at all has a solution for what the 76ers can throw at them.
Yeah.
But I think they're not going to go down without fighting. Yeah. I think this is going to be a team that pushes the Sixers to 6 games. Mm-hmm. And I know, obviously, yes, there's the Ben Simmons hasn't lost against
So Ben Simmons is losing twice to the Knicks.
I mean, hey, dude, there's a first time for everything. Who knows? There's a chance that it happens twice. Yeah, I think it's just personally for me, I said at the beginning of the season,
yeah,
Sixers are my favorites here. Mm-hmm. So I am putting that out there. But I think it's just this Knicks team is going to go down fighting. Mm-hmm. And whoever they match up with, that team is not going to want to see them.
Yeah.
I think this is a team, I wanted to say the Knicks were pretenders just because I don't want to give the Knicks praise about anything.
Dude, this season has worked out way better than I thought it would for them.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was just going to be a meme team. I'm like, man, we're never going to see, Quickly or Top in play. We're not going to see either. I mean, one of them we've seen a lot of, the other one, eh.
Yeah, and Simply Corny's right. Regular season, it's a clean slate for the playoffs. Anything can happen. Soapy, let's do this for the top. We can both agree that the Sixers and the Nets are contenders, right?
Yep.
The thing with the thing that with both these teams is for the 76ers, it's will Embiid be healthy? That's it.
Yeah.
And then for the Nets, will all three of them be healthy?
Yep. That's literally the only concern for these teams. Otherwise, it's if they're both healthy, good luck everyone else. It's been nice knowing you. You had a good season.
So that brings in the conversation of the last team we'll talk about today. The Milwaukee Bucks. Contenders or pretenders, Soapy?
That's a big old pretend right there.
Why? Go into it.
The Bucks stink.
Okay.
I'm not just having that be my only reason. I think it's this Bucks team has shown time and time again they cannot get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whenever it has come down to the second round, they stink. They always lose. They always play really badly. And I think it's going to stay that way until Bud's their coach.
Yeah.
I think it's now.
Do you think he gets fired at the end of the season?
Absolutely. If they go down in the playoffs the same way they did before, I think he's gone. Because last year, he lost them in the playoffs by not being able to adjust that roster at all. He ran with the same rotation. He ran with the same minutes no matter what. And it's oh, cool. They're throwing us at a way of they're throwing a lineup that can slightly handle Giannis. That's when if they start being able to handle your main player, you need to find ways to be able to get Giannis to not be contained anymore.
Yeah.
Problem was he didn't change anything. It's okay, this lineup's not working. Something needs to change. And he's nah, it'll start working soon.
Yeah, I mean, for me with the Bucks, it's because 4 through 6 is so fluid right now to where basically the next few games will solidify it, because you got the Knicks are only a half game ahead of the Hawks. The Heat are only a half game behind the Hawks, a full game behind the Knicks, to where any of these teams can move up and down at this point. I feel if I'm the Bucks, I am saying pretender also only because of the history of this team. Plus, I like the Sixers. Like, Sixers Nets are my Eastern Conference Finals. Let's just lock that in. Like, the East is, I feel like everyone's going to have a similar East. The only difference is, will you have the Sixers in the finals or the Nets in the finals? The Bucks, to me, it's like, I don't want to play the Knicks in the first round. I don't want to play the Heat in the first round. Hell, and even that other team, like the Atlanta Hawks, like, yeah, out of the three, I guess that's the one you guess you might want to play. But like I said before, yet again, this is me WWE booking this, Soapy, but could you imagine the Hawks playing a tough series against the Bucks? They bring them to 7, and then Bogdanovich hits a 3 to end it, and the Bucks get bounced in the first game. And then it comes full circle of how the Bucks didn't get Bogdan, and now he's knocking them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the Hawks knock them out. I think it's just whatever team they run into the second round is going to beat them.
Okay.
Like, if the Bucks don't make it past the first, they need to blow the same team up.
So no matter who they play in the first round, Knicks, Hawks, and Heat, you think the Bucks get past them?
I mean, if they match up with the Heat or the Knicks, that's going to be a hell no for me.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They're losing in the first round against that Knicks team.
Yeah, and the reason is just the fact of, like, this team just stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Chris Middleton cannot be your second best player on a championship team.
He's been arguably their hottest player right now. I know Giannis has popped off in some games, but Chris Mid playing some really good basketball right now.
Yeah, it's just the fact of, I just personally can't look at this team and just be like, you know what, I'm confident in this team. Because I've been confident in these teams for, like, what? The last 2 years, and they stunk it up both times. Like, it's the fact of, like, Chris Mid can be the hottest player in the NBA. Congratulations. He still can't be your second best player. Chris Mid is a third star on a team.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Chris Mid as a player. Like, Chris Mid's a fantastic player. The only thing is, it's been shown time and time again, he can't be a number 2.
Yeah.
Because if he could, this team would have made the finals by now. Like, obviously, you know, there's questions as well about Giannis as well. Like, I still have Giannis in top 5, or, like, in, like, upper, like, top, I said, like, top 7 player.
Because of how athletic he is, at least.
Yeah, and how much he utilizes that, and how much, like, he's essentially unstoppable. The only thing is, I almost honestly have a question. Can he be a number 1?
Yeah, I think
Giannis is starting to get to that point with me of, like, in the playoffs, we've seen him shrink in the playoffs. Like, I kind of view it as and maybe it's a coaching thing. Maybe it's just me bringing the negative side from Games Live over to NBA, over to sports.
It's a coach thing. I don't think Bud's the right coach for the Bucks. I think that's proven. Like, that's the thing. I feel like they will lose in the first or second round this year. Bud will get fired. Then it's finding that coach to pair with Giannis, because Giannis has already proven, hey, I am hitching my ride to this city. I am not leaving. So, I mean, that's the thing. They got to find the right coach after the season. Also, sorry, Jake, but I would absolutely love if what Simply Corny said happened, where he's like, Clippers 76ers, Leonard makes a final shot in Game 7 to win the finals.
How about we don't wish that juju on 76ers fans again?
I'll put it
Jake doesn't stop talking about that. So
I'll put it this way. If you had to put, let's say somebody gave you $100 and said you had to put all of it on either the Sixers or the Nets to get to the finals, who are you putting that hundo on?
You say Sixers and Nets?
Sixers and Nets to make the finals.
Dude, that's such a tough one. And it's literally the fact of, like,
Tim says Sixers.
I'm going with Sixers.
Okay. I mean, I agree with, so Simply Corny, when you came into chat, you said something that I totally agree with, is he said, this is the Sixers year. Been a fan since don't mention Spencer Hawes in this chat. Mention AI. AI days, the process is working kind of. I thought about that earlier today, that this is the Sixers year. This is the Philadelphia 76ers year. If they're going to win the finals, it has to be. Like, it sucks to say it has to be this year, but this could be the year where everything aligns for them, to where they get the best out of Maxi's playing hot off the bench. You go ahead and you're getting a healthy season of Embiid. This may be the Sixers' year to get a championship, and they got to prove it in the playoffs. However, I do think Sixers Nets is the Eastern Conference Finals. Go ahead and book it. But that is going to do it for Sports Live today. It was a little bit longer of a show, but hey, that's what's going to happen when you're going through about, 20 teams. We went through 20 teams and listed them as contenders or pretenders. Want to thank every single one of you guys in Twitch chat for being as great as you always are. Remember, the big news is that we are moving away from Twitch. We'll be on YouTube, full-time streaming there starting May 24th. So go ahead and go over to MVP Sports on YouTube. Link should be down below on Twitch in our bio. Go ahead and sub there if you're not already, to make sure you always keep track of the show. Remember, Discord, it's the greatest community in the universe. You can go ahead. If you love talking NBA, we're always talking NBA in that Discord. So you can go ahead and go to Discord. The link is in Twitch. Just click it. Go ahead. Boom. You're in it. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. Soapy, thank you for a wonderful show. It's great to talk sports with you, because usually I never get to talk sports with you, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're always talking games, and sometimes I show up for sports. Sometimes even I show up for games too. It's elusive.
Sometimes I show up, but that's gonna do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is NBA. Soaps will be back with Dave Oster, as they will be talking about a lot more heading into the playoffs and a little bit of draft talk, as it is Spurs draft day tomorrow for MVP Sports Live. Thank you guys for being as great as you always are, being as awesome as you always are, and as always, have a good day, everybody.